build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Oh, well, they gave me ball, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty. This is episode 89. Tonight, I'm joined by John. John, how are you doing?
I'm good. Everyone's dead cheery. You're dead cheery.
Everyone, but it's just two of us. It's because I remember the episode number before we started.
It's always a good start.
It's a wee victories. And also, I've had like no sleep. Just, you ever have a night where you just can't get to sleep? So I fell asleep about 4:20 this morning. Alarm went off at the back of 7, and it's just that's not an awful lot of sleep to survive on.
No,
so,
definitely not. I'll try and not keep you the night then.
A little bit delirious, I think, sleep deprivation, and my car's goosed as well. I have to take my car into the garage on Thursday. Wish I knew it. I think the handbrake is season or something like that. When I go to pull out my drive, take the handbrake off, go to the biting point, nothing happens, and you have to kind of really put the foot down for it to move, and you hear this kind of clunk noise, which isn't healthy. And then as you pick up speed, you get a doof, 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 doof noise. So I'm not a mechanic. I wish I was good at that kind of stuff, but I'm not.
If The Simpsons has taught me anything, that's one of two things. It's a flat tyre or you're going to have a heart attack.
Well, instead I'll check the tyres, so that doesn't bode well. How are you doing? Anyway, what have you been up to?
Just golfing over the weekend, moving some furniture about in the house, and obviously getting a bit of criticism for not having decorated the room, and I'm sure that'll come in. But I did get the stuff up.
Gone, no?
The shelves have gone. I got stuff up in the loft after buying some ladders. So I'm making progress. I think I'll get the walls painted this week some point.
What colour gone for?
The wall was recently it was plastered about 6 months ago. So no, it'll just be like a primer on first, and then I was hoping to go for what do you say, like a Hibs green or something, but I'm conscious that may make the room a wee bit dark because this has become my office since lockdown. I've got some Hibs memorabilia there that I want to get hung up on the wall. So I've got a shirt, I've got a seat for Hampden on that glorious day, and I've got a picture that your mate Mark drew that I'd quite like to get up on the wall.
Did you ever get an East Stand seat or East Terrace when they went?
No, I wish I did. I don't know if you remember, there was a few years before that. I couldn't even say, like, I was young at the time. I was maybe about 20, and Hibs had relayed the pitch, and they were selling off a square metre of turf for a tenner a go. So I went through Easter Road for Livy. I had no idea what a square metre was. I just toddled along, £10 for my bit of turf, and the boys looking at me like, "You got a motor?" Like, no, I came through on the train. I ended up like managing to ram this square metre of turf into a black bag. I put it on my shoulder and went back to Livy with it and put it behind my mum's shed.
Is it still there?
It's still there, but it's been rained on, pissed on, shat on by the local cats and dogs, so I don't think it's in decent nick anymore.
I got a wee thing years ago with like folk pressed flowers. It was like pressed turf for Easter Road with a wee kind of a wee plaque thing that I've got a wee bit of
when
turf.
Hibs had the pitch invasion when we got promoted back in 98, 99.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the pitch with my wee brother, and I don't know, I think I realised that I still had some blades of grass on my shoe, so I picked them off my shoe and I put them inside my wallet. Kept them there for years afterwards as well.
Excellent. Mental things you do, like that.
I wouldn't call it sad. Just got an attachment to the place, eh?
Aye. It's genuinely my favourite place on earth.
Aye.
Which probably is.
Even when it's shit, I'd rather be there, I think, than anywhere else.
Aye. Right, we've got a victory to talk about, John.
Yes.
A victory, 3 hard-earned points up in Dingwall.
It was an important victory, wasn't it? I was thinking to myself, do you describe it as a big win? Because it's not any more or less valuable than any other game that you play, and there's always 3 points to play for. But I feel like there was almost a sense of achievement there
Oh, definitely.
by getting the result.
Jack Ross said he had set the players up to look at it as the biggest game of the season so far. Which I think, given what was at stake, if we'd lost that one from the position we were in for third place, if we'd lost that one, the pressure would have really been on us. Winning that one doesn't take the pressure off, but it certainly relieves it. I think it was, in that respect, it was a big game.
After the 2 results that we had, like 2 defeats back to back, like it was. I think you saw at the end of the game, like Ryan Porteous was giving it the full. He got the guns out. He had the full flex going on, punching the air as a full-time whistle. Did you?
Thought everybody knows for the flex. So they call me John Collins for nothing. They didn't call me John Collins. One of the players did an overhead kick at the end of the game, and I didn't quite catch who it was. Was it Porteous that did an overhead kick? Oh boy, yeah. And some folk criticised him.
It reminds me of an overhead kick that Pat McGinley scored against Motherwell back in, I think it was the first game of the season back at Easter Road. Remember when we had the T-shirts back in the Premier League? Aye, Pat McGinley. It wasn't the most acrobatic overhead kicks. He just sort of fell backwards on it.
I was always shite at things like that. Overhead kicks. No, I can't do a forward roll properly. All right. Do you know how the folk you just aren't built for that kind of thing? If I tried a forward roll, I end up veering off to the side, and a cartwheel can never do. At 43, I have no need to be doing cartwheels.
Aye.
But even when I was young and fit, couldn't cartwheel.
I'm not sure I've ever attempted one, and I've got this overriding fear now as I've gotten a bit older that I'm going to dislocate an elbow or something doing it. So fuck that. I'm not going to go try any gymnastics.
No, I'm not going to do it. Definitely not. But it was quite impressive. I only noticed that today as well when I was watching the highlights, or there was something on Twitter to say, look, this is what it meant to the players, and I was like, I didn't clock that at the time. But maybe just lost my internet for a minute or something, just right on full time.
Possibly.
Something like that. But I think they should make an effort every game to do an overhead kick with the last kick of the ball.
They should definitely put that in like the players' pot for the end of season Christmas party. Like someone gets an extra drink or doesn't have to pay their contribution at the kitty if you get the overhead kick in at the end.
Aye. You imagine if they made it a rule. The game can't finish till there's an overhead kick. So if you're you're hanging on, it's 1-0, you're deep into injury time, and you need to get the ball in a position where you can do an overhead kick to end the game.
That's you know how we get asked we've been asked a couple of times on short bangers, like if you could introduce a rule to football, that would be a good one.
Aye.
Like imagine like the game was evenly tied at 2-2 and you had to win with an overhead kick. Imagine the creative football that would be on display.
Awesome. Right. What was your take on the game then? So a big game, 2-1 in Hibs. What happened?
Well, I actually only saw about 70 minutes of it because I got locked out my mate's motor when we were playing golf. So I got back, I think it was maybe about 15, 20 minutes in. And the commentators, I managed to pick up the Hibs away stream. So I got Cliff Pike and Tam McManus, and they were saying that Hibs had been on top. So I just took it as given. Mm-hmm. I thought we probably, I'd read obviously that Cadden had missed a chance by that point. And I thought this first half just kind of played out. It took care of itself. Like Hibs were definitely on top.
Yeah.
Without really, I don't think they really troubled Ross Laidlaw. It's certainly in the time I've seen it, in the highlights that I've seen since. I think Doyle just had a header that Laidlaw's tipped round the post. And obviously there's the Cadden one as well.
The Dougie Tripod has a shot just over as well, which by the way had a lovely wee bit of skill leading up to it.
Do you count his I think it was like a left-footed cross across the face of the goal that kind of drifted wide without anyone getting a foot on it? Do you count that as a shot?
Nah.
Come cross come shot?
Stretching it a wee bit. I think that was only criticism that I had in the first half, was that we didn't trouble Laidlaw. But we created good opportunities, got into good positions. Cadden should have hit the target. I don't know if the pitch has played a part or if it's bobbled just before it's got to him, or
I
what,
thought that it was maybe played just a little bit behind them.
Mhm.
Like he's not really had the opportunity to kind of strike it. It's kind of
yeah.
he's just tried to get something on it.
If you were giving him the benefit of the doubt, which I suppose we will because we won, then yes, maybe was a wee bit behind him.
It's funny how your perspective on those things changes, depending on the result.
Totally. If you lose that one, you're slaughtering them for missing. No, I think it's one of those ones that maybe if it falls to a striker, they're hitting the target with. Like if that had landed at Nisbet's feet, for example,
Aye.
you may be backing him to get it on target. But
I don't know if it's a wee feather in his cap that you'd give him, but he's found himself in a goal scoring position a couple of times now, and I'd like to think that the next time he finds himself there, he buries it.
aye. Oh, I think Cadden's definitely a player that will bring goals to us. I think so. But I like there was a lot to like about the first half display, and actually we talked about it on Longbangers last week. I don't know that we would take any credit for it, but the importance of starting the game on the front foot and trying to,
Yeah.
press the opposition right from the start, because we don't tend to see Hibs do that, but they did that on Saturday. They got right at it. You could tell the players were up for it. There was no question that they knew the importance of the game. It was good. It was, I thought the first half, like you say, it kind of played out. Hibs were comfortable. There wasn't that much to talk about from it, really.
No.
0-0 at half time. We were maybe a wee bit unlucky not going in front.
Aye. I think one of the things that surprised me, obviously taking into account the fact that I missed the first 15, 20 minutes, was I think it was Tam McManus's assertion that Hibs were the better team, because when I tuned in, it seemed like there was a lot of balls in the air. And I'd asked my mate at the time, like, do you think that as much as Ross County's pitch looked better than Hibs, it lended itself to good football? And he didn't seem to think that it did. Because as much as it looked better, you still saw the effects of the game the longer the game went on, and obviously taking into account the weather in the second half. Like, I think perhaps we're just at that stage of the season now where you're not going to get to play on many decent surfaces.
No, which is you talk kind of decent surfaces, and you think of like things like snooker tables. When you think of snooker tables, you think of snooker commentary, which, as much as I like Cliff and he's a friend of mine, Cliff sounds like he's commentating on the snooker, doesn't he? I feel for because the Hibs TV guys do Hibs radio and TV. So do you know when you're watching the Ross? Well, if you'd seen any of the Ross County stream, they can shut up for a bit as the play goes on, and just let you take in what's happening. Cliff and Tam have to keep the commentary going.
Keep talking
all the time, yeah. Like I always think Cliff has those hushed tones, doesn't he? Like he's until something exciting happens, But
Aye.
he sounds like he's maybe commentating on the snooker for time to time. Tam McManus, by the way, is quite negative about Hibs. Whenever Josh pointed it out to me, exactly like listening to Hibs commentary, that Josh pointed out and says, "By the way, how negative is Tam McManus?" And then when you start listening, he criticises all the time, and that's not a bad thing when it's deserved, but I think sometimes it's a wee bit over the top.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there was a point second half, and I hope this doesn't sound biased because of the player involved, because I think I'm on record as saying that I absolutely adore Lewis Stevenson. But second half, late in the game, Stevenson's entered the game, he's replaced Dougie Tripod, and Hibs break with the ball. I think it's Jackson Irvine that's got it way over on the left-hand side.
I know exactly the incident. Yeah, carry on.
And Lewis Stevenson, you just see him coming off camera, interview, supporting Jackson Irvine like the fucking Roadrunner. And Tam McManus was saying, I don't know why he's doing that. Hibs have got the lead. You need to be sitting in and defending. I'm thinking, no, at that stage, you want a runner there to be looking for the pass to put Ross County on the back foot.
The irony with that, John, is I'm sure seconds before it, when we received the ball, when it was Jackson Irvine, I think, when he took the ball, Tam says he's looking for support. And then there's Lewis up supporting, and then it's the wrong thing to do because he doesn't collect the pass. I think the pass was a wee bit behind him.
Aye.
I still, as much as we joke about it sounding like the snooker or overly critical, I would still 100% rather listen to Cliff and Tam than Richard Gordon or the BBC guys, which
Definitely.
we'll talk a wee bit about them anyway when we talk about the coverage of the game. So first half I thought was a good performance. Wee bit of debate on .net earlier on that I was reading about whether or not the second half was a better performance, or if we just got the goals in the second half, but maybe didn't control the game quite as much as we had in the first half, because we created more chances, but we also conceded an awful lot more. Starting obviously with Ross County scoring. What did you think of their goal?
It kind of came out of nothing.
Mhm.
Like I've watched it back since. I didn't obviously fully appreciate everything that had happened at the time, because I just thought, oh, for fuck's sake. And I'm not trying to apportion blame, because similar to, I was going to say with Tam McManus's comment about Lee Stevenson, he was the boy that played, McManus played professional football. I've never. So maybe he was right and I'm wrong. But watching the replay back from Ross County's goal, Porteous clears it and then sort of stands there looking as the ball sails over his head, and it almost takes him a second to realise, shit, I need to be doing something here. But I don't know if at that point, because Paul McGinn, I think, sort of comes in and covers Porteous's position, the boy gets a good header on it. Like it was a goal that said to me that it was anticipation for the Ross County strikers. They knew exactly what they needed to do and where they needed to be, and they had the runners there capitalising on that flick on in the box. So it was a momentary lapse from Hibs. It wasn't a great clearance that landed straight at Ross County player's feet. He's whipped into the box. There's been a header there, and there's a guy just been running onto it, stuck it in the back of the net. It was clinical for Ross County and taking that opportunity. And funnily enough, John Hughes had said in his interview after the game that he said, I've been in his usual John Hughes tone, I've been in the game a long time. You're going to get a chance. Make sure that you took it. Make sure that you take it, and they did.
Yeah. It's interesting. I recognise the same thing with Porteous, and I watched it back a couple of times. I don't think it makes any difference to the goal when you look at who's picking up who in the box. There is definitely a wee moment where Porteous kind of goes, like he's just switched off for a millisecond, but I genuinely don't think that had any impact. I don't think if he hadn't switched off for that millisecond that he would have been any better placed to deal with what happened.
Yeah, I think he's... Sorry, I was just going to say, I think in that momentary lapse, he's had a wee check behind him to see who's filling in, and he's looked to pick up another position. So I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there and say that he's not had the best clearance, but he's looked to get back into position.
Yeah, aye. It's just a difficult. It looked like a sloppy goal to concede. It's one of those ones when you watch it and you think the ball was kind of bouncing about a wee bit, and then you say the Ross County players anticipated. It was Billy Mackay that scored.
Aye, it was.
Aye,
it was.
I'm terrible for paying attention to opposition when they score. Like opponents' names mean virtually nothing to me. You kind of sometimes recognise a player. I kind of the Hibs players and that. Like obviously know who scored for us, but I'm pretty sure it was Billy Mackay that scored for.
I only remember the name because there was a point during the game where the commentator, but I don't know if it was Cliff or if it was Tam, talking about Jordan White and Billy Mackay, and I'm thinking to myself, are their surnames White and Mackay?
White and Mackay. I'm sure the BBC commentator made a wee joke about it. Kind of White Mackay. It's a spirited performance or something, which you can't miss an open goal like that really if you're a commentator, can you?
No.
So we're behind. History has not been kind to us when we look at instances where we've gone behind this season, John. But 2 minutes later, we get a penalty. Penalty for you?
100%. 100% it's a penalty.
And why is it a penalty?
Because I fucking said so.
And that's that, right?
so my view of it was ball comes in, Dougie tripod, sclaffs it, and the ball breaks in the box. You've got the Ross County defender, and Martin Boyle runs from behind him, nips in front of it, and depending on your point of view, he puts a leg in front of the Ross County defender, anticipating a foul, or he puts a leg in front of the defender trying to get the ball. The end result was the same. the Ross County defender goes through the back of Martin Boyle. It's a foul in the box. It was a clear penalty for me. It's not the penalties we've talked about before. Like, I think you would like to see a player brought down, legs taken out from under them, opposition not getting anywhere near the ball. That's not what happened there, but it was still a foul in the box. It was still a penalty. And I'm surprised that there's been the debate that there's been about it.
I thought it was crazy. There was the debate, and you're right. So there's an argument, say Boyle played for it, but I would say Boyle's not played for it any more than, if you've seen the ball out, if you're the defender and you're seeing the ball out and you let the attacker, you get in between the attacker and the and the ball, effectively then you're in control of the ball. That's how the rule works.
Yep.
And if the attacker takes you out or makes contact with you and you fall over, that's a free kick. The referee will give that every time, unless the ball goes out play first. There's no difference there. It's a foul anywhere else on the pitch, so therefore it's a foul and a penalty if he does it in the box. And if Boyle gets that ball under control, which he's going to do, all he has to do is swivel on it and he's got a shot away.
Aye.
So
I've seen fouls. Boy Shea Logan at Aberdeen was brilliant for it. You could go close to him. I've seen fouls given for far less at Easter Road, particularly by the boy Shea Logan playing for Aberdeen.
yeah,
So, and there was definitely more contact there for the Ross County player on Martin Boyle. So it was just a penalty. Like, I was on my feet shouting for it. It was a penalty.
aye. And you've seen like other penalties like that given this season. So for all those, like, you watch Sports Scene and this really irked me over the weekend. So first of all, I got pissed off at John Hughes coming out and he says the last time I saw a player dive like that, he was wearing Speedos.
Yep.
So be right. If you're going to call somebody out for diving, be right when you do it. Then do it at a time when your defenders fouled the boy. So, and I know a few minutes later, Boyle went down easy in the box, and you could probably say that one, aye, he was lucky not to get booked. That looked like a bit of a dive, if I'm being honest. But no, the penalty. You have to hold your hands up and say your defenders made a cunt of that. That's a penalty. That's no Martin Boyle cheating the referee. And what annoyed me is Yogi knows exactly what he's doing when he gives that interview. So he calls Boyle out for the penalty, he calls him out for the second incident. He calls out, who's the referee? Beaton? John Beaton?
Beaton, yeah.
He says he should know who he's refereeing. Right? So for me, there's a clear inference there that Boyle's a cheat, and Beaton should be aware that Boyle's a cheat, and referees should treat Martin Boyle differently. Now, Martin Boyle, I think, is the second most fouled player in the league behind Lewis Ferguson at Aberdeen. Right? And Lewis Ferguson at Aberdeen deserves it. Martin Boyle doesn't he? He's one of the good guys. Boyle gets kicked up and down. And we've seen where Boyle's trying to stay, and he's going to be given a free kick for it. I have no problems with him making sure the referee sees a free kick. For John Hughes to go and do that, he knows he's then putting the narrative of that game when it's reviewed on Sports Scene later on Martin Boyle. So no on whether or not Ross County defended poorly by giving away the goal or the penalty, not on the fact that they're still struggling at the bottom of the league, but on Martin Boyle saying you've got Shirley Kerr, who inexplicably watched that incident and said there's no contact. She watched replays of it, and James McFadden sitting beside her saying, it's no penalty, there's no contact. Like, I don't know how you can watch that incident and say there's no contact. It's fucking ludicrous.
Yeah.
So you get a whole section then on Martin Boyle cheating when he's not cheated. It's outrageous. Like, it's out of order.
I completely agree. I was, because I'd messaged you earlier about it, and I couldn't believe what I was watching and what was being said at the same time. Like I say, I thought it was a clear penalty. I don't know that there was that much difference between. Do you remember when Scott Brown brought down Martin Boyle in the box, where he's just gone through the back of him?
Yep.
Whichever way you describe it, the Scott Brown incident was clumsy, and the Ross County defender was clumsy as well. Like, he's maybe not clumsy actually. He's just been caught out. Like, Martin Boyle's come across the front of him. I don't think he's deliberately fouled him, but he has fouled him.
Boyle was caught out against Aberdeen when they beat us at Easter Road.
Yeah.
Penalty.
Yep.
It's the same thing. The boy got to the ball before him. Boyle hit the boy. That was it. Penalty kick. You can't
Yep.
really argue it. That's a penalty on Saturday as well.
I disagreed completely that there was no contact. There was definite contact.
My mate Colin texted me earlier on this evening. We were talking about it as well, having like a similar conversation, and we were talking about the standard of the pundits, right, on the BBC at the moment as well, because they're fucking archaic anyway. Like, his point was half of them didn't seem to ken the rules anyway. You've got Willie Miller, who was playing when you could pass the ball back to the keeper, which he used to pass it back to Jim Leighton all the time. Pat Bonner was a Celtic goalkeeper when I was a wee laddie.
Yeah.
Like, you've got that going on, and then he says, I was just trying to find what he said. Billy Dodds on the radio said he hadn't seen it, but would take Crichton and Bonner's word for it. So he just joins in the pile-on.
Oh, brilliant! Well, there's some impartial.
That's it. What you did. So they said he's not been touched, so we'll just join in without seeing it for ourselves. And I do caveat that by saying I never heard them say that for myself. So at the risk of being a complete fucking hypocrite. But I'm not on the BBC, right? I'm not calling out any players for cheating. I just thought it was really poor form for Yogi. And folks said you want managers to be honest after the games, and absolutely you do, and you wouldn't want to take away the characters for the games and anything like that. No problem with him. See if he said, it was a penalty, but Boyle was at it for that second one. It didn't get a penalty for. Aye. Fair enough, Yogi. That's right. That is what happened. That's not what he said. He said he dived for the penalty. Well, that's bullshit. Yeah.
Unless he's misspoke. I think you're right in that he's trying to draw attention away from the team because he's obviously trying to save them for relegation. Mm-hmm. If he's misspoke and he's referred to the second incident, because the second incident was a dive. Or in Newspeak, he was anticipating contact, and Jason Naismith was just a wee bit too clever for him.
He wasn't buying it. It's essential because Yogi's argument was that he should have got a second yellow, which it would have been if the referees deemed it to be a dive.
I mean, it's absolutely bizarre because if you remember, like the challenge that Boyle had on the boy that got him the first booking, like the players were over screaming for a red for that one. I'm looking at it going,
nothing wrong with it. Well,
the second time in 3 days where I felt like I was watching something completely different for everyone else.
The players went out their way to try and get the Boyle sent off. Now, see, for me, that's a bigger ball ache than somebody trying to win a penalty. When players do that, try to get another professional sent off. Like, come on, what you doing? It wasn't a bad tackle. The boy wasn't hurt. Do you know what I mean? He made a bit of a meal out of it. But you look at the conditions they're playing, and Boyle's a wee bit late, but he's hurt the boy.
Have you ever seen? It's The Longest Yard, but it's the one with Adam Sandler.
Oh, Adam Sandler's shite. No,
you're not a fan.
I watched one. So I think I've seen one decent film for his, The Wedding Singer, which was all right.
Oh yeah.
And then I watched one with is it De Niro, Anger Management or something like that?
Oh yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, thank you. I watched that. And you know, you're watching, waiting for something to get going, and then it fucking finished, and I was like, you bastards! Like I resent Adam Sandler for that hour and a half or 2 hours or however long that bastard film was for making me think that at some point it was going to get good, and then it fucking never got good. I fucking hate Adam Sandler for that.
Aye, so if you've seen Mean Machine with Vinnie Jones, it's basically the same film. Mean Machine was like the English remake, if you like. They made it football instead of American football. So in the Adam Sandler one, it's inmates versus the guards in the game of American football, and the guards realising that the inmates are starting to get organised and they've got a couple of decent players in there. They turn the sprinklers on the practice pitch and they just flood the thing. So the players just go, well, fuck it, and they just play football in the water, and they're chucking the ball about, and they're doing big Klinsmann slides through it, you name it, and they're just having the best time. And watching the game in the second half, that's what that reminded me of. Just an absolute shitmare of a pitch, the conditions, everything. Like not that I'm not criticising the pitch. I'm not saying it was Ross County's fault. The heavens opened, the wind came through. It must have been a nightmare for the players to play in.
Yeah, it was shite. Do you know, like a nightmare. You could tell. We talked about it on Quick Bang on Saturdays how muddy the players were. It was like, you know, when you were wee and you could go out and play football in the field, and you'd come back in hours later and you would be
caked
in mud. That's what Martin Boyle had won a free kick down the corner flag in about the 91st minute. And he stood up and his yellow shirt was just brown, just manky. It was like, that reminded me of being wee. Did you ever, you're a wee bit younger than me, John, did you ever have a Commodore 64 or an Amiga?
Aye.
Did you have a game called
Commodore 64.
Microprose Soccer? Did you ever have that?
Micro what, sorry?
Microprose Soccer.
No, I had a game on the Commodore called Fighting Soccer. You had to,
That sounds...
after you played the opening part of the tournament, you had to flip the tape over for the final.
This is Airdrie in every game. Was it? Microprose Soccer was brilliant. It was sort of like a precursor to Sensible Soccer and Kickoff and those kind of, top down. But when it rained, if you did a sliding tackle, the wee sprite for the character would like kind of spin round and round and round and just go for miles on the pitch.
Oh, really?
And that's what I was thinking when I was watching the game. Not that happened, but it reminded me of it. Goal number 2 comes from Kevin Nisbet. So Carden goes off just after we concede. I didn't even notice he got subbed, by the way. And Hibs TV had the caption up about 20 minutes later. Carden went off and Nisbet came on. We get the penalty, scored that. I think from memory, Nisbet came on before we got the penalty. But Boyle went out to the right again, and we had the Doidge and Nisbet partnership. The second goal comes from Doidge laying the ball off to Hanlon, I think, who was dead far forward. He smashed it across the goal, and Nisbet was at the back post.
Yep. I think Irvin maybe takes the ball and he plays it into Doidge. Doidge lays it off to Hanlon. Hanlon sticks it back post, and there's Nisbet waiting to smash it into the back of the net. It was brilliant. I was, like I said at the start, Hibs have had a couple of defeats recently, and some of the conversations about Hibs have been, I think there's a number of different camps, people talking about Ross, people talking about Hibs team, the Hibs players. I was critical myself about Jackson Irvine, Joe Newell, and maybe there needing to be a wee sacrifice to try and find the balance in the team. And when Nisbet hit the back of the net, I was up out my seat, fist pumping, clapping, cheering, you name it. Scared the dog, scared the wife. I wasn't popular for the next 5 minutes, but it was just that moment. Like, I can't remember, there was someone that mentioned it on Quickbang, and apologies for forgetting the name, I do this quite a lot, but they mentioned coming from behind, and how you didn't, I think it might have been Ewan, actually, you don't really remember the 4-0 so much as the ones as the 3-2s, for example. And coming from behind the way that we did, after the criticism that's come our way, was phenomenal. It felt really, really good. It was probably as close to being at Easter Road as I felt this sort of lockdown football watching experience.
Do you prefer the experience of coming from behind, John?
Oh, 100%. Who doesn't he?
You've done a little bit of analysis on that very thing, haven't you? Not coming from behind per se, but
can we caveat this with Neil Lennon analysis in inverted commas?
Laser.
Aye, so I'm always curious when people say something about Hibs and say, "Oh, fucking typical Hibs," and then we had like Hibs did a few years ago. Like, how real are these things, and how much do we just imagine it because we are exposed to Hibs, once, twice a week. So the thing that Hibs I've received a bit of criticism for this year is not being able to win from behind, not being able to come from behind. And I went through, believe it or not, 192 games. So there's been 192 games across something like 32 or 33 rounds of fixtures so far this season.
Yep.
And 176 of those games, there were goals, and the other 16, they were no-score draws. How many times do you think that the team that scored first has gone on to win out of those 176?
Right, so out of 176, 120?
Almost, it's 130. 130 times out of 176, the team that scored first has gone on to win.
It's quite significantly weighted in their favour then, isn't it?
Aye. and on 18 occasions, the team that scored first went on to lose, so 10% at the time. It seems to be that in the league, at least, if you score first, you go on and win the game. Like, it's really, really hard to turn around. And I think one of the other criticisms as well has been that the league is poor. I don't know what the justification for that is. Like, I don't know how you measure up whether the league is strong or whether it's poor, and whether people maybe use it to sort of suit their argument. And I think, I mean, again, like, this is just numbers on a page, but I think one thing that you can maybe point to that and say is that teams that take the lead, retain the lead, and see out the game, they're very, very good at it.
And I suppose then the question would, or the obvious statement to make would be that Hibs must have, therefore, taken the lead in more games than not this season to go on and be sitting third place.
So 15 out of 16 games that Hibs have won this season, they took the lead and retained it.
With the exception being Saturday. It's mad.
Aye. And the thing is, like, in the interest of, like, full disclosure, like, in the 9 defeats that we've had, we haven't scored at all. But I think that is a lie to the fact that on those 130 occasions, you take the lead, you retain the lead, and you see out the game.
But it's an interesting thing, because, again, we touched upon it earlier on in this conversation about how last week we were saying, because of this importance of scoring the first goal, we wanted to see Hibs go out and blitz the team.
Be bold, as we said.
And in fact, we did that on Saturday. We went and took the game at Ross County. I don't think you could argue that we were the better team, or we weren't the better team in the first half. But we went a goal behind. There's a sort of irony in it, isn't there? You know, like, they did the very thing that we said we wanted them to do, and then
I think
went behind anyway.
I think when we had the conversation with Calvin Charlton, one of the things that came out like was, it doesn't matter how much preparation you put in, doesn't matter how much data you have. You can say what we said, go out and be bold, but you still have to factor in that you are playing 11 other professional footballers / athletes. It just doesn't work like that. It's just not as simple as that. That's what I'm saying. Like, these are just numbers on a page, and you can attribute any sort of weighting or strength to them that you want. Mm-hmm. We are still competing against the other 11 best teams in the country.
This is true. There was listening to Sports Sound in the car the other night, and Harry Potter was on it, and he said, so they were talking about McInnes getting sacked. Just on the back of this, said Ian McCall, Harry Potter, and he says it's extremely difficult to win a Premiership game. And I thought, that's why you're in the Championship, you Hearts bastard. So, aye, snow if you're Jack Ross, we win them, they bother. But the point is correct. You know, obviously it's not as easy as we would like it to be, and I think we've been guilty of that. Something I have, where you make the correlation between budget and the expected result as well. Usually, as a justification as to why Celtic and Rangers beat us. And I think we've been careful to say that as the gap in budget gets smaller, the impact that it has makes less and less difference. Yep. Somebody posted a thing on Twitter the other day. Aberdeen's wage bill was £15 million. 15 million. Hibs was 5.4 or 5.7. So it just shows you, like,
that's three. How are they paying 3 times? How? Hold on. Did they offer Funzo Ojo 3 times as much as Hibs did?
Well,
is that what we can take for that?
I tell you what, they definitely offered more, because he was all set to sign for us, and they fucked off like the.
And then he went, I know,
midnight flip. So it shows you, because when I saw that, I was like, fucking hell, that's remarkable. And I would say, if a team's got treble your budget, you would expect them to finish. I think trebles, when you're looking at those numbers, 5 to 15. So say 1 million to 3 million, you're probably not seeing that huge a difference in it, because 3 million is still a pretty small budget. 5 million to 15 million that's significant in terms of what that money should be able to get you. So for us to be in front of Aberdeen at this stage, but the thing that made me think of is Ron Gordon at the AGM said he wanted to double the wage budget in, I can't remember if they say 3 years or 2 years or what the time frame was, but the ultimate goal was to double the wage budget. And you think, even if we do that and Aberdeen stand still, we're still only 2/3 of the way to their budget. It's fucking mental.
It'd be interesting to see how COVID, how the wage bill, how their proposed stadium move is going to impact Aberdeen, because I think anytime I've seen a club build a new stadium, there's usually been a knock-on effect on budgets after that. I think they're going to have to go out with a wee letter to their investors and say, here, we could do a wee bit more money.
Please come have some oil money. It's remarkable. I know McInnes was rumoured to be on a huge wage, and he would have played quite a big part of that. And probably you look at squad sizes and things like that. And I know Aberdeen are trying to cut back on things. So
it does. If that was Hibs, and I think Hibs may have been in that situation before, certainly not 15 million, but with huge squads and having to trim the wage bill because of financial circumstances, say. I'd be asking, oh, you mean with deferrals and things?
Aye, so but even just this, you look at the squad size, and that is one of the points Hibs made when they were getting criticised for spending money on Nisbet and McGuinness, is we reduced what we spend on the players.
Yeah.
The cost and the squad contracted.
Who are Aberdeen paying £15 million a year for?
Fuck knows. I mean, you.
Because I could imagine that the boy Cosgrove must have been on a decent wage.
Aye, he
just because he was a good player.
I try to think of folk that they would have signed or tried to, like, who they've re-signed that they wanted to keep. So
I'd imagine McCrory will be on a decent amount, having come to Rangers.
McCrory, Ferguson will be on a decent amount. Their keeper, because they brought him back. You could probably go through the squad. Dylan McGeoch will be on a no bad amount. And I suppose it's the benefit of this is what you don't see is what they're taking in. But Aberdeen have been in Europe every season. That McInnes was there, which is what 8 or 9 years.
Aye.
And if you're regularly playing in Europe, and that's why third place is so important to Hibs this season, because the rewards on offer, particularly if Rangers or Celtic win the cup, which you think is a fairly high chance of that happening, then we'll have group stage, I think, European football to Christmas. That's a huge amount of money for Hibs. It's like when you look at offsetting the cost of COVID and try to close that gap on Aberdeen, which is what you have to look at now. So how do we get to a £15 million spend? If we can hit Europe every season, then we're fucking laughing.
Can I just say that if there's anyone out there that's not keen on getting this AstraZeneca vaccine because of the reported blood clots it's going to have, I'll have your vaccine so that I can beat Easter Road for European football in December.
Same here.
Thanks very much.
Are we going to try and get a Longbangers trip? This is why we need everybody to watch this on Recast, by the way. If you watch this on Recast, right, we get Hibs some money and that will help them close the gap. No by 15 million quid, I dare say. But it'll help them. But it'll also, we could put the money towards a Longbangers Euro trip, John.
We could, I automatically go big. I'm thinking we charter a flight, a Longbangers flight.
Get the baggers on board with us.
Baggers on board, exactly.
It'll be a great flight. Let's make it happen. Everybody get yourselves on Recast. We'll make this happen.
Alternatively, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Watch it there. Watch it. Subscribe. No?
We need 1,000 folk. Before you can earn anything on YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers. And I think, John, because
that's just 2 jumbo jets worth of people. That we can do it. You can do it. They can do it.
We're on 210.
It's doable, I believe.
If everybody listens, did it with that 1,000, they bother.
Just stick it on in the background while you're working from home. You don't even need to have the volume on. Just put your phone to one side, put your Longbangers on.
Do both. Do it on YouTube and Recast. If you do both, that's what we need to do.
If they do both, we'll pay for your flight.
Caveat that way. As long as we've got enough there to cover it, aye, we will. I'd be up for that. We could maybe put it as a competition. Right. Team held on anyway, so good fighting spirit. Held on, got the win. Up yours, Yogi. Livy next up on Saturday, John. What's happening then?
Be an interesting game. Livy, I think they arrested their wee slide that they had recently with a win against Hamilton.
Did you hear the Hamilton commentators' appraisal of Livingston?
No, I did see something earlier, so maybe it's the same thing. How did they describe it? Did they say it was eye-bleedingly awful?
Words to that effect. It was pretty much if they were playing in his back garden, he would shut the curtains. That's bitterness. Was it a Hamilton commentator that went for a time kite and got sacked?
That's right, aye.
They've got bad luck, with who they hire.
What, is this boy being sacked or not?
I don't think he's been sacked, no, but it's no great look, is it? Like if you're getting beat by a team and then you sit slaughtering the way that they play.
Aye. But then I don't know that Livingston are the most attractive team to watch, but what they do very well. Like, I mean, what they did against us over Christmas, they did very well.
Yeah,
and we weren't able to respond to it.
I think Livy have found their level again. I don't think they're a good team. I think they had a right. I'm loath to use the term the new manager bounce because I have my reservations about whether Martindale was anywhere close to being a Premiership level football manager. Right, this is my first reservation. I think he's come in. He's obviously known the players. They had a bit of a bounce for having a change, and they went on a really good run. And you didn't want to take anything away from them. But when that run stopped and they were starting losing games and they were being pretty abject in a lot of these games as well, you realise why the first manager lost his job. They're not a great team. They're not a great team to watch. I think now that what you've seen is a team who's past that honeymoon period of the manager and is getting, and I can't like, touch wood because that's the kiss of death, and I go and fucking slaughter Livingston and then they end up beating us 3-0 or something, right? So touch wood that doesn't happen. But I think what you're seeing is a team they've hit their season's ambition. They've got top 6.
Mm-hmm.
But they're I don't think going to really be getting any higher than that. Who's above them? St Johnstone or St Mirren?
I'm not sure. The last time I looked at the league, St Mirren were 6th. Aberdeen are below us, so that would put Livingston 5th.
Yes, so Livingston are 5th, right? So Rangers, Celtic, Hibs, Aberdeen, Livingston, St Mirren. So Livy are guaranteed top 6. So they've met one of their stated aims. I can't see them closing the 6 points on Aberdeen, and I don't think they'll catch us in 3rd. So it's then, their season's more or less done, isn't it?
Well, I know what you're saying, but if I was a Livingston fan, I would be looking at the league table with the same optimism that I looked at the league table and the upcoming fixtures that I did when we had that interview with Calvin. If Livy beat Hibs, you're looking ahead at Aberdeen, and you're looking perhaps at trying to catch 3rd.
They're not good enough for it.
But the thing is, but those fixtures that they have, like the top 6, the way that because of the nature of the split, we face all of the best teams in the country. And 2 of them, Rangers, Celtic, aye. But they, the teams are there on merit. I'm trying to remember. We've definitely been beaten by Livy once. I think have we beaten them twice?
No, we've only played them twice, home and away. So
right, okay. So this is the 3rd
comprehensively, and they won Easter Road comprehensively. Yeah. Although I think on aggregate we're still ahead. There's an interesting point. So I forgot to do this last week. So apologies to everybody who sent us in a talking point, because we got that caught up about moaning about how shite Hibs had been. I can't even remember who we played. That's how pathetic and fickle you are as a football fan.
Motherwell?
Is that not the week?
Motherwell or St Johnstone? St Johnstone.
Aye.
Liam Craig, that fucking dick.
I'm going to get started again. Was that caught up in moaning about it that I forgot to come to the points for folk? Luckily, because we've won, hardly anybody's got in touch this week. But TG Willis said he thinks he's right in saying Hibs have won all our games played on artificial pitches this season. Now, there's an interesting wee stat because normally...
So who have you got? Livy and Hamilton? Is there any... Oh, Kilmarnock.
Kelly. Aye. I think they'll go down this season, Kelly. We could potentially see 2 plastic pitches at the league this season.
Yeah, that would be all right.
It'd be decent.
I wouldn't be against that.
The problem is you're replacing one of the plastic pitches with Hearts, and that's Ish.
How does it work? So, oh no, sorry, the Championship's still playing.
Yes.
Ignore me. I was going to ask, how does the promotion playoff work with Leagues 1 and 2 being suspended? But
I think they're going to look at points per game if they can't finish it. There was a wee vote on it earlier on, but didn't see how that ended up. But is it an
I
interesting?
wonder if Dundee faxed in their vote again.
Oh, fucking brilliant! Imagine if you're Ian McCall, having been relegated with Partick, and the next season you didn't get back up on the same rule. I think Partick are going to come back. I've not really been paying attention, but I'm sure they will. So plastic pitches, maybe a good omen for us on Saturday that we've done quite well.
Well, I think it ties in with our form away from home. And you'd like to think that we're playing on as much as it's a plastic pitch, it might be preferable to playing on Easter Road at the moment.
Aye. Well,
you know, for all the plastic pitch's flaws and its critics, it might be.
You think one of those red baize pitches, like the ash whatever that you had when you ever played one of them when you were wee?
I skint my knees on them.
There was one. So I grew up in Whitburn. There was one at James Woods. It's the high school in Whitburn, or no, Whitburn Academy. James Woods, Livingston, isn't it?
Aye.
Whitburn Academy. There was a ash pitch there.
There was an ash pitch at Dean's High, and there was a boy. I can't remember if it was Sean Strachan or his wee brother, but I was through on goal and he half me from behind. So that was how I ended up with the skint knees.
What kind of sadistic bastard came up with those pitches, eh? Like, who thought that was in any way like a good idea? And not just once, there was loads of them. That's it. That and your Mitre Mold Masters, they went with it, which if you ever got stung on a Saturday morning when it was fucking freezing,
I guarantee it was a Tory sports minister in Westminster went, right boys, what's on the agenda of the day? Pitches up in Scotland, will we go grass or will we go something that'll shred their bodies to bits? Body shredder, please. When's lunch?
I'll put them off. The Mold Master hitting you, if it was cold and wet and you got tan with one of them, it's amazing there isn't a generation Scottish folk with dimpled heads for heathering them or copping them in the pus.
And saying that, like, you ever been hit with any of the more modern football? Even if you were to go like back to Mitre, you would come away with like big welts in your leg from the stitching in the panels. They weren't fun either. The only difference was, like you say, the sort of dimpled effect.
Do you know the best balls in your wee was the ones with the leather and started to come off, and there was that sort of like browny grey, but they always they were just perfect for catching on the volley, and they bounced brilliant and everything. Everybody had a ball like that as well, and they were always fucking superb to play with.
They were almost indestructible. You probably got more wear out of the fabric underneath than you did the leather on top.
Until the bladder started to poke through one of the patches.
But
you still played with it until you absolutely couldn't play with it any longer.
Turn into Socrates trying to hit one of those things, like bending it all over the shop.
Just putting it down. It was what do they call it, knuckleball. That was where the original knuckleball came from. Just belting that. We got to that. Like plastic pitches, that's what it was. So that bodes well. Prediction, think we'll win?
I think we will. I think taking into account everything that you've said about Livy and Hibs and what they're going for and what's at stake, hopefully with Nisbet getting a goal now as well, that's going to start, going for that final 6-game push.
Is now the time for Nisbet and Doidge to rekindle their partnership from the start basis?
What a bromance that could be, It could be. Like, I remember the conversation that you were having on Quick Bang about Cadden, Boyle and how to fit that into the team. And I think one of the things I saw on Saturday was it reminded me of what I was saying about Jackson Irvine and Joe Newell. I thought Jackson Irvine had a better performance at the weekend there. He reminded me of, and bear with me while I describe this, it reminded me a wee bit of Bastian Schweinsteiger when Germany went on to win the World Cup. Like, it seemed to me like he was always at the base of or forming part of a triangle to receive the pass and move the play. But that kind of made Joe Newell a wee bit redundant in midfield. So perhaps they try and get Cadden, Boyle, Doidge, Nisbet all playing, maybe through some weird reshuffle, you take Joe Newell out.
Aye.
But you leave. I mean, like we said, like that's for the manager to work out. If you were to bring Nisbet off the bench again and he was to score, happy days.
Mhm.
I think he scored what? Did he get his first hat trick for Hibs against Livy? So
Yeah.
fuck
Yeah,
it, just
well,
put him on for the start. Fuck it,
yeah.
be bold. Go get the goals.
Oh,
Statistics say we'll win the game if we
yeah.
score first.
We had a chat on Quick Bang. It was Ewan from Down the Slope, and every listener to Down the Slope. It's a great podcast. I asked him who he would drop because we were talking about it. How do you fit the players in? And it's a fucking difficult decision to make. I think you look at. So obviously it's been Doidge or Nisbet has been the one that's dropped out generally. But I think you're right. You either look at Newell coming out and sacrificing that bit to get Boyle, Cadden. But again, do you need Boyle and Cadden on the pitch at the same time if you've got Doidge and Nisbet?
That's the thing. And by the way, I meant to mention this earlier when we were talking about Nisbet's finish, and I got sidetracked and talking about something else. I'd said before about Doidge having not scored, and he's still not scored, and it must be about 19 games or something now. But his contribution on Saturday was invaluable. Like his hold up play, his link up play, like. And by the way, like I think something else that was really pleasing was the fact that the two guys who've come in for some of the harshest criticism, I think, this season, Doidge and Hanlon, both combined for the goal. Like Hanlon, that overlapping run to Hanlon. Yeah. Aye. And do you know, I think it is easy to point the finger when a player makes a mistake, but I think it often goes unrewarded when someone like Hanlon puts in the shift that he did. Like that overlapping run, I talked about it when he was saw a really good partnership between him and Ambrose when they were bombing forward under Lennon. And we saw a wee glimpse of that. Like your centre half should not be in that position, but his willingness to get forward and support the attack was crucial in Hibs getting the win. And so was Doidge receiving the ball and being unselfish and playing it off.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's somebody actually mentioned after we scored the penalty, the desire for the players to just get the ball and get the game kicked off again to go for the win.
Yep.
Aye. I think, John, we've almost covered it in the last couple of points for listeners. We had Matt Reed just mentioned the second half weather. It was mental, because you looked at the first half and it looked like a lovely day up in Dingwall, and in the second half it just looked like
it was the kind of conditions that makes me glad that I didn't play football anymore.
Aye, that's definitely when you're like, oh, fuck's sake. Jeff Ashton said, are our centre halves allergic to the rain? A bit like the wrong type of kryptonite. I thought the centre halves were good. I have to be honest. I think there was a lot to like about the centre half's performance at the weekend. The goal aside, which you could always pick holes in, but I thought we generally defended pretty well. We did concede a few chances second half, but we were pushing to win the game. So
I
expect that, and the conditions play a part in that as well. Aye, so that's us, John. We will be back on Thursday with short bangers. So if you haven't heard last week's short bangers, I would thoroughly recommend going back to do it, even if we say so ourselves, because we had messages after it for folk who, somebody said it was the best one we've ever done, John. It's always nice to hear. Aye. My favourite one was from, and I forget her name because that's terrible. I'm sorry, I'm awful with names.
Was it? Is it Lisa? Oh, Lisa! Oh, the nightmare about Westlife.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's Lisa.
The dog. Brilliant. I think it's the first time I hope it's the first time we've given anybody nightmares for a podcast.
If we appear in people's dreams and then we're describing them as nightmares, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, this is a good point. But we'll be back with another one. What I was going to say was what made Short Bangers good on Thursday was the epic quality of some of the questions. And we've already had a couple of animal-based questions for this week's one. So please don't be shy. Get your questions in. The better the questions, the better the show. We'll have a good laugh while we do it. On Saturday, we'll have Quick Bang right after the Livy game. So if you want to be involved with that, drop me a DM on Twitter. And I have to apologise as well to, hold on, I'm trying to remember the name, somebody of Hibs. So I think 2 or 3 weeks on the bounce, not on the website The Bounce, but on in a row. there's a poster called Brightside who'd mentioned coming on Quick Bang, and I said, yeah, definitely will get you on. I'll send you the details. Completely forgot because I do everything on Twitter. He reminded me last week and said, you forgot to add me. And I was like, oh, fuck, I promise you I'll definitely do it this week. And then forgot again. So I need to apologise for that. If you do want to come on, your best thing to do is to DM me on Twitter at Longbangers, and I'll get you on the list. Spaces are limited. They do go fast. So get in early if you want to come on, and we will do our best to get you on. Until then, have a great week, and we'll catch you on Thursday. Cheers, John.
On the Dry County line, I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.